Hello. I love Super Nintendo. I eat, sleep and live everything SNES. I love Super Nintendo. If it ain't broke, then don't fix it. Now this is an idiom that we hear a lot in life, and it gets thrown about quite a bit. However, when it comes to the Lost Vikings, never was a truer word said. The original was such a classic on the Super Nintendo that it makes absolute sense for the developers to stick to that kind of gameplay for the sequel. And on the most part, that is exactly what they have done. Once again, Eric, Baleog and Olaf have been kidnapped and find themselves being transported around time trying to get home. At the beginning of the game, the three Vikings acquire brand new futuristic weapons which give each character some brand new moves. The gameplay of the game is very similar to the first. You are presented with a level and must use a combination of action, strategy and puzzling to get to the end of the level. However, in the sequel, it is not only about being able to get to the end of the level, you must also have collected certain objects during the level to move to the next one. The Lost Vikings are also joined by two entirely new characters. First, there is Fang, a werewolf who can jump to unreachable areas and attack with his claws. The second new character is Scorch the dragon, who can breathe fire and fly short distances. Each character adds enough of a new development to the story. First off, let's talk about new abilities. Eric the Swift has gained turbo boots, which allow him to jump even higher. He is also the only character in the game who can swim. Baleog has replaced his bow and arrows from the first game with a bionic arm. This allows him to not only attack enemies from a distance, but also swing over certain ledges and reach switches and items that would be otherwise out of reach. Olaf can now shrink down in size, allowing him to reach new areas. He can also propel himself through the air. These enhancements on each character make for varied gameplay from the first game. The new abilities of each character seem to fit with what they could do originally. So rather than give each character an attack, for example, the game developers have taken what each character could do already and improved on it. As already mentioned, there are also two new characters to the game, and rather than feeling like a cop-out, these characters actually feel vital to the game. It feels that they were necessary for the evolution of the game to set it apart from the first one, and it does that really well, with both the brand new characters being different enough from the characters that are already available. Once again, the game is a good solid laugh. A lot of the jokes are hidden in the dialogue, which you might be tempted to rush through. However, I urge that you take the time to read it, as it provides valuable character development. Each of the levels is once again enjoyable to play. They range from the piece of cake easy to the is there any end in sight impossible, and there's always a real sense of accomplishment whenever you finish a new level for the first time. As already said, the game is very similar to the original. So if the Lost Vikings wasn't your cup of tea, then LV2 probably won't do too much for you. As with the original, the levels can also get very samey. Collect stuff, exit the level. Collect stuff, exit the level. It's not awful, and the levels do feel more varied than in the original, but it's worth keeping in mind. 3 years in the making, The Lost Vikings 2 takes everything that the original did so well and improves it tenfold. Now, not only do Vikings rock, but they also rock in the present and in the future, as well as in the past. It comes as no surprise that there was never a Lost Vikings 3 on the Super Nintendo. LV2 is so awesome that an attempt to even replicate the awesomeness would have resulted in either failure or everyone who played it having their brain implode from just how awesome the game was. Vikings, werewolves, dragons and science fiction icons. How do you top that? Maybe, in Lost Vikings 3, the Vikings could have driven a tank made of fire. This tank shoots sharks and ninjas. The sharks have the power to fire lasers from their eyes, and the ninjas can all fly, and do that cool running across trees that ninjas often do. And finally, the tank is carried on the back of Mr. T, who is high on Snickers bars and Virtual Boy. Whoa! Awesome. Maybe if video games nowadays could have a laugh at themselves the way that the Lost Vikings games can, there'd be less war. Or less famine. A massive 91%. Moving now from a group of hairy, sweaty, overly violent men to a completely different group of hairy, sweaty, overly violent men. Join us very soon for the special WrestleMania 27 review. Be there or miss it at your peril if you smell what the Super Nintendo Fanboy is cooking.